I'd like to do is just tell you briefly that right around the 50s, right around this time, is when the nuclear power organization at the shipyard started. There are several important people that I'm going to talk about. One is Admiral Rickover, outstanding person that started the nuclear program. I now would like to talk briefly, if I could find my arrow, about Irv Katz. A lot of you don't know who Irv Katz is. Irv Katz was the head of 2310 when I joined the shipyard. I was able to get a copy of Irving Katz's eulogy, and I'd like to read parts of it. He graduated from Cornell in '47 with a BS in physics. He went to New York University, got his MS in physics. He got his coursework done in '52. From '50 to '54, he worked as an electronic scientist at Brooklyn Navy Yard. Around that time, in response to the defense needs of the Cold War, the legendary Admiral Hyman Rickover tapped Irving and several other promising young men and sent them to Oak Ridge School of Reactor Technology in Tennessee. In '54, Irving and his family moved to Portsmouth, where he served as the division head of the Reactor Engineering Department, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. The eulogy continued to say he served as a chief refueling engineer during the refueling of the Nautilus, one of the first nuclear submarines. As far as I know, that would make him the first chief refueling engineer in the nation. Some of you may know, some of you may not. But Irving Katz's daughter is Sharon Roberts. She is the present secretary of Code 2320. Irv Katz has a son, Mike, who also works at the shipyard. I believe he still works there. I've been told that Irving Katz helped to establish the nuclear program at this shipyard. That's some history that I've learned. Irv Katz hired me. I was to be a shift refueling engineer. I started in '69, and as you'll note, back then the pay scale was quite lower than what it is right now.
Go right now.
Thanks. I'm going to see if I can come over here and look at 2320. There are a lot of these names I don't remember, but I start to remember Grigorakis, George Habib, and some of us remember those names, right, George Sewell? Frank Apicella, Paul Clark, who was here today, and I thank you very much for coming. Manning, Trinigadell, Parsons, who was here, Arcanon, Bob Schremer, and now it goes to, it went to Tim Mahoney, and now it's Chris Pollard. The 2300 people were Robinson, Habib, Heyman, Kroner, Pemberton, and Argue. Some of the 2309 people are shown. Some of the people in 2310, which back then was 2302A, back then 2320 was called 2302B, and all of these people have retired from the shipyard. You can see that Trinigadell at this time was the division head, and Frank Sheehan was a branch head. Mr. Parsons, Cannon, Illick, and Sokolowski were branch heads. Some of these people back in, this was 1991.1, Peter McCardle, people that worked for him, Mike Dumont, David Ward. Those are names you probably remember. .4 back then was Steve Cuman. You remember Rick Holmes, Wayne Dorman, Karen Movar, Bob Fandaka. This is where there was a big change and personnel. What I like to do is put the faces to some of those names. What I like to do, Don Parsons, I would like you to tell me where a 2320 is in the next picture. Go! Where is it? Where is a 2320 in this picture? This picture was taken in 1971. Ah, let's help you, Don. Can you see Al Pemberton? 1971. The three of us, Al, and myself, took a 3-week tour of Germany.
What are you wearing? I gotta ask.
I'd like you to take a look at that finger. Does that finger look familiar? The hand, I'm sorry. The hand. Does that hand look familiar? I think that hand is that of who? Peter Ricardo. Back then, 1976, this is the rouster of the people that were thinking about going on a mount climbing trip.
Peter always tied a string on his fingers. That must be somebody else.
Okay. Occasionally in 2320 we would go off to grab something to eat. Here we were going to the weather vane. The what? Now I think the person over here is Bob Moreau. Doesn't look like him now. This right here is Tom Reimels, Al Kelly, Henry Anderson. Ring bells? This guy, do you know who this guy is? Bob Burns. This is my wife right here on the right. This is Peter McCardle. I think this is Steve Cumin. This is Hannaford. There are other people here. Now, Al Kelly, Gary Sama, Steve Kitchen, Morris Smith, Hannaford. Now, who was this person?
Chris somebody.
Who?
Chris somebody.
Okay, and Neil Stacy, who's now in welding engineering. Some other faces that we see, this person right here, he is the head of 138.2, Paul Rule. Matt, who? That's right, Mike Sokolowski, Hannaford, Steve Cumin, Mike, Bob Gay, Morris Smith. This is something important that I found when I think Peter McCardle was throwing stuff away, and I was looking for making sure what he threw away was not in violation of some stuff. What he did is, I think that someone wrote a surveillance report, and he said, basically, it came to his attention that a certain chief test engineer would provide donuts each week. And then he suggested that we believe that this practice considerably enhances the morale of the team and should be implemented by 2320.1 and/or leads thereto, both morale and locally. This would not violate any of the CSC rules governing. It talks about some of the shows of people that were in the office at the time.